So in this presentation, I am going to explain about the rolling friction. Already you have learnt about the static friction and kinetic friction. Now you are going to learn about rolling friction. Before going to learn about rolling friction, first I will explain about kinetic friction. Here, 5 books are kept on one another. It's a pile of books. Now I want to move this set of books. So what I have to do? I have to apply the external force. If you apply the external force on all the 5 books, the books it moves. In the meantime, there is a frictional forces existing between the surface and the last book. At the point of contact between the last book and the surface, there is a frictional force. That frictional force is called kinetic friction. That is mentioned by the letter Fk. So here the kinetic friction is greater. Therefore, you have to apply more amount of force. Only then the books can be moved clear. Otherwise, it is not easy. You have to apply more amount of external force. Only then we are able to overcome the kinetic friction. Your external force is acting in this direction. Kinetic friction is acting in the opposite direction. So you have to apply more amount of external force. So by the time what happens? Your energy gets wasted. Now to avoid this, what we have to do? Now we have to go for some other arrangement. Are you clear? Now I am going to show you the other kind of arrangement. Okay. In this case, there is a relative motion between the 5 books and the surface. Are you clear? Again I will show you. Now if it is moved, book moves with respect to the surface. Are you clear? There is a relative motion between the set of books and the surface. Are you clear? Because of that, what will happen? The frictional force is more. Kinetic frictional force will be more. Understood? Here, now I have completely changed the arrangement. All the 5 books are kept on these PVC pipes. Now these 5 PVC pipes can be called as rollers, or you can call it as wheels. Now, if you apply external force, very less amount of external force is required, because here what happens, that the PVC pipes, is clear, their point of contact is very small. Are you clear? At a very small area, the wheel and the surface both are in contact. The point of contact it becomes very less. Are you clear? In each wheel, the point of contact, area of point of contact is very less. Are you clear? If you apply the external force, look at that how easily it can be moved. With less amount of external force, all the 5 books they can be moved very easily. It can be easily displaced. It shows that here at the point of contact, in the case of pure rolling at the point of contact, there is no relative motion between the point of contact and the surface. So literally we can say that the friction is very less. Are you clear? The friction is very less. But in actual practice, there will be a small friction due to deformation of the point of contact. Because of the load at the point of contact, there will be a small deformation occurs. Because of that, there will be a frictional force. That frictional force is existing in rolling motion. This kind of motion is called rolling motion. You can easily move it here and there. In the primitive pyramid construction, is it clear that large heavy stones, heavy rocks, they were taken to the higher level only by using this method. They had kept all the heavy rocks on the rolling coasters. If you apply a very little amount of force, you can move very heavy objects very easily. So at the point of contact, there will be a small frictional force. That frictional force is existing at the time of rolling the objects. That frictional force is called rolling friction. Where the rolling friction is occurring? At the point of contact between the surface and the PVC pipe contact, point of contact, there will be a little amount of frictional forces existing. That is called rolling friction. Compared to the kinetic friction, this friction is lesser. Because of lesser friction alone, we are able to apply the very little amount of external force. Could you understand that? So by applying little amount of force, we can move the object very easily. So where the rolling friction is created, the rolling friction is existing between the point of contact and the surface. Clear. In the case of pure rolling, we can say that there is no friction, there is no rolling friction. But in actual practice, there will be a little amount of rolling friction is existing between the point of contact and the surface. Are you clear? So here, the very important thing is rolling friction is lesser than kinetic friction. In the case of kinetic friction, you have to apply more amount of external force. In the case of rolling motion, because of lesser rolling friction, just you apply little amount of force that could be moved very easily. Understood? So that is the meaning of rolling motion and rolling friction. Understood? From this simple animated video, you can easily understand the concept of kinetic friction. Here, that heavy rocks, they were pulled by the slaves. When they are pulling these heavy stones or rocks, there will be a kinetic friction that is existing between the heavy rocks and the surface. That surface, it applies the opposing force to the movement of the rocks. While pulling these heavy rocks, what will happen? The slaves, they have to exert more applied force. After applying the heavy applied force alone, they are able to pull the heavy rocks. It is not easy to pull the heavy rocks because more kinetic friction is existing between the surface and the heavy rocks. At the end, finally they will get very tired. Are you clear? Just observe. He is pulling the heavy rock at the time of construction of pyramid. The frictional force, kinetic frictional force that is existing between the rock and the surface. At one point of time, what will happen? The slave, he became very tired because he has to exert more applying force. Kinetic friction is more. Understood? Here you are going to observe how at the time of construction of pyramids, our ancestors, they have used the rollers or coasters to bring the heavy rocks and stones to the greater level, higher level. Just observe how they have saved their energy by reducing the friction by using the rollers and coasters. Observe it. In this slide, we are going to learn the definition of rolling friction. Just observe the diagram or photo. Look at the point of contact. At the point of contact, the tire of the vehicle is slightly compressed. In ideal pure rolling, motion of the point of contact with the surface should be at rest. But in practice, it is not so. Due to the elastic nature of the surface at the point of contact, there will be some deformation on the object at the point of the wheel or surface as shown in the figure. Due to this deformation, there will be a minimal friction between the wheel and the surface. It is called as rolling friction. In fact, rolling friction is much smaller than the kinetic friction. Okay.